You need to see this entire video if you want to know how to make hardstyle kicks. This isn't one of those videos where you get shown how to make one result, but in this video I'll show you all the techniques and knowledge that you need to have to start creating your own kicks. We're going to talk about where the sound design process came from, EQ and distortion, a little bit about stereo field of your kick, and we're going to talk about how you can do that nowadays with a modern method. Make sure to sit through this one because afterwards you're going to understand everything that's happening in different kick tutorials. And the first most important thing that you need to realize is where hardstyle and kick sound design came from the past. We used to use 909s and we would distort that and EQ that to the max to start getting a nice sound for a hardstyle kick. So when you start seeing tutorials and people say we add a little bit of distortion and a little bit of EQ, take that little bit with like this big of a grain of salt because it's gonna be much. Let me just show you this chain that I have over here to show you what you can kind of expect and do inside of EQ and distortion. We start off with this normal 909 and we put our first EQ on there. And notice the amount of the peaks that we have. This is 25 decibels. That's a really huge amount. Then on my first distortion, I'm also already clipping fully. So we're taking this 909 to something that's really sounding more aggressive. The main thing that you really need to pay attention to is that you can lower your mix on most of your distortions. So inside of the distortion, you can go to the max, but then you can lower your mix so that it kind of stays balanced with the old sound and your new sound. So if you open this all the way, it's gonna sound more aggressive, and of course down, it's gonna be less. So you want to play around with that to get a nice balance for your kick in each step that you go through. Now after that we add more EQ and more distortion. And this actually shapes the rest of our sound. So we can really just take a peek and start scrolling through here and listen for what we want to have in our kick. For example, I want to have one there and I can add another one here. To shape our sound step by step to create that full hardstyle kick that we want. Now it's also important that you sometimes do a little bit of stereo, so you can get a reverb and create some stereo field with that, or you can use a chorus and that can create a nice stereo crunch. So if we already add the next EQ and distortion, you're really gonna hear that this chorus creates more movement. It just creates a nice stereo field and makes the kick sound more full. So just keep this in mind. Your kick almost never is finished. Now let's dive into the modern side of sound design with Serum 2 and creating some tills in there. You can take the information from the chain that we made and start making that in Serum 2 as well. Serum 2 is amazing because you can actually make a whole chain, but even from Serum 1, you could take your filters, filter 1, filter 2, or the FX filters, and basically see those as small steps of an EQ before you distort it. Now something more effective that we can do is we can start using wavetables and the wavetable position to really create the right crunch. And that crunch can just be perfectly created for the kind of kick drum that you want to make. So if this movement is not here, we bypass them all. You hear that? There's no actual movement anymore. So if we activate them all again, you really hear the movement. And that's the movement that you need for your hardstyle tills to really create the right drive. One of my go-to tricks, whether it's a punch or a till, is using the LN12 filter on both of my oscillators to start making a nice peak and a huge dip, which will create the right current for our kick. And like this, we can actually easily make a nice till. And for the punch, you can use this as well. This is the same LN12 filter with some distortion, a little bit of EQ and the stereo from the hyper, like we did with the chorus in the full chain. And then we create this nice punch. So it's basically just the same thing as we used to do, but now it's nice and compact in one plugin. The one big thing you do need to pay attention to is you do need to zero the randomize function, because if you don't do that, then it's going to change your phasing each time. So just make sure to put for your till and your punch both of the randoms on 0, then it's going to be good. Now we exported the tail, but we can still make it more full. And this brings us to the next thing that can really make our kick drum a lot better. And that's phasing. We have this low end layer over here. And this low end layer is just too easy to make. You can literally take a noise, an alpha noise and a sine wave, put that through a little bit of distortion, and you're gonna get this. Combine that with your crunch layer from your tail, and your tail is gonna be full. But you can really fuck this up if you move the tail, the white noise tail, to the different spot. Right now what you see is that basically when the crunch tail goes down, our noise tail goes up. So it's really cancelling out the phase. And that really sounds bad. What you need to pay attention to is that it kind of globally goes up in the same spot and goes down in the same spot. Then they really reinforce each other. And the same thing goes for the punch. You can use phasing and subtle changes in phase to really create that nice sound that you're going for. So I layered this industrial effects, this little layer, into my punch because it wasn't full enough. It just sounded a little bit empty. But with this extra layer, it has some more depth. Let me show you how you can change the phase inside of samples as well. We can of course change the time stretching, which is going to change the phase. We can change the pitch. And we can also change the pogo over here, which is basically doing a little bit of time stretching and a little bit of pitching at the same time. But if we change this, listen for how much this gives a different result. So you really hear this punch change shape just because of that phasing difference. So this is something you really need to get an ear for. And now that you have your layers together from your tail, you like your punch and you like your tail and you want to finish that kick, one final thing that you need to do is just inflate it with an Oxford inflator or some kind of limiter. Let's just listen what happens when we put this back to around 0 and take the effects and everything down so that it's back to basic again. We're going to raise the input so that it's going to get close to 0. Something like this. And then we're going to raise the effect and see how far we can go without destroying the sound too much. And we're just going to push the loudness to the max. With this particular kick, we can even just go full out, and sometimes you do have that, and that's nice for the loudness. Then we go put the curve up a little bit more, which keeps the sound a little bit more warm. And that's all we need to do to finish a kick. And to really make sure that you understand my point of that kicks are never finished, I'm going to take these two tails, which are combined, and we're going to put them together underneath that Serum kick. Now I think this was made in a G, so I need to put this 2 semitones down, so we can also move inside of the sample. I forgot I had to lower this one to -3 because the tails are in E, and the other tails were in G. And of course we routed this to our full kick bus, so I basically took away the Oxford inflator to give our kick some more space again. And let's just play around with the phase, and you can really hear that the kick is never finished. I do think that actually adds some nice extra crunch, but it does make the tail a little bit louder. So maybe we need to raise the volume a little bit of our punch. And then on top of here, we can just add our inflator again, and we can push it to the max. Now of course this kick isn't a full professional hardstyle kick, but the tips that I gave to you are the things that you really need to start making them. So just keep an ear out for the phasing, start learning how much you can use with EQ and distortion, and start layering and know that your kicks are never finished. I hope you liked this video, you learned something from this, and hopefully I'll see you back soon again. Did you know I do one-on-one sessions for sound design, whether it's kicks, melodies, or maybe you need some help with the mix down of your track? Hit me up in the link down below or send me a message on my Instagram. I'd be glad to be of service. Cheers!